Welcome to the LGBTQ Real Estate Podcast, connecting LGBTQ homebuyers, sellers, and real estate pros since 2007. My name is Jeff Berger. I'm the host of the show, and today we have a very special guest, someone that I personally saw about 3 weeks ago in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, at the LGBTQ Real Estate Conference. Stephen Norris, a realtor from Raleigh Durham in Charlotte, North Carolina. Stephen, it's great to see you again. Welcome to the show.
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? Good to see you too. Although the last time it was very warm and we were on a beach. So I will say I enjoy seeing you right now. I'd rather go back to where I saw you last.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. But this setting was a little bit easier today.
Yes, it was. It definitely is much easier for sure.
Great, great. Yeah. And we were at an LGBT real estate training, and that was a lot of fun. We learned a lot about technology and new things that are going on in real estate. And what we do here on this podcast is we help consumers and other realtors find an agent. Okay, because the concept of this show is if someone is looking on YouTube, maybe they're moving to the Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte, North Carolina area, they can find you because we know how important it is for the LGBTQ community to find that safe space and work with a realtor that understands them, wants to work with them, and knows their values and has their values. We
True
know
that.
that's super important. So let's start with the show. We typically have about 15 minutes. We keep it very simple and brief because we know everybody's busy. We know everyone's got some notification on their phone. They've got something to do. And this will help them find a great realtor. And I know everyone would love working with you.
Well, we might have to do two of these then, because I like to talk, so I got a lot. So,
Yeah. Well,
I'm
let's
messing with
jump
you.
into it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, both personally and professionally.
Okay. So, I mean, we know the name, but I am actually a native of North Carolina, which we have so many folks relocating here. It's hard to find a native sometimes, but hence the accent. Some people are like, where are you from? I'm like, New York. Like, what? I'm like, Southern New York, extremely southern part. But no, I'm from North Carolina. Married. I have 3 kids that I have been raising, and thank goodness my youngest is finally out of the house. They are raised, and they're not raised. They never officially leave, I guess. But I'm in that position that a lot of my clients happen to be. A lot of times they're like, okay, all the kids are gone. Now what? Do I downsize? Do I, get travel more? And so I'm answering these questions for myself. But I feel good that they're alive. They made it through their teenage years and graduated, and they're, doing their own thing. As far as professionally, I've been doing real estate for 11 years. I actually started off as an investor. And so I work with a lot of investors, but I started off as an investor, and this is going to, make a lot of people irritated with me. But I got into real estate because I didn't like realtors. So
Wow.
yeah, for sure. So as an investor, I had been working, with folks, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I mean, I don't, I'm scared to get in this person's Mercedes or whatever the case may be. Maybe my shoes aren't clean enough or whatever the case may be. And I don't know. I just felt it was an industry that it was focused more on the dollars versus the transition of helping, like me, like getting from having raised 3 kids to now at a point where I'm transitioning to this new part of life where I get to focus more on, me and my husband and us versus like just the kids. Like, that's a big deal. And I want somebody that is real, that keeps it real with me. And I just felt like a lot of folks just weren't that way. And so I said this to you earlier today. Like, if you want to make a difference, you got to make a difference. So I decided to go get my license and do it for myself. Discovered I really, really love it, and that the market was really missing someone, at least in this market, like myself, that just was so, like it or not, very genuine. And I just got into it. And, fast forward, I'm in the top, I think, as far as according to, what do they put out? The real trends that I think I'm the 32nd large team in the US at this point.
Wow,
So
that's a great accomplishment, Stephen.
yeah. So I went
You help
from,
a lot of people buy and sell homes with success.
oh, absolutely. I love it. Right. I do it because I love it. I didn't do it because, I was like, oh, I watch HGTV. I was like, oh, I like looking at pretty houses. Get my real estate license. I got it because there was a need. I
Yes,
needed it. And then I realized that the reason I got into real estate is the same reason that I could be a great realtor for a lot of other people. And it has proven to be true. In fact, I actually went to the US trademark office and trademarked keeping it real in real estate because it's a philosophy to live by.
that's awesome. That's
Mhm.
awesome. And I know you are very down to earth. I know you personally, so I can say that you do keep it real. And I know from our experience working together for many years, you have a lot of LGBTQ clients. What is it you feel about working with the LGBTQ community that you enjoy so much?
I like the openness, right? I think a lot of times, when we're growing up, we are told that, especially in the South here, that, we don't talk about it, or, oh, it's just a phase, or at least, I'm not in my 20s by any means. So, when I was growing up, like, you learn to just kind of keep your mouth shut, right? You learn to just kind of pretend or whatever. And I think as we age and become adults, we hold these things in, and when we finally come out, we realize that it's empowering. And what we discover is that it makes no sense to pretend. It makes no sense to hide behind a veil. And so working with other, LGBTQ clients, the communication is so much more open, and you can really have very real honest communication. You can release the veil. I mean, not only do you have the commonalities that we share a lot of times being in the community, but like I just feel like a lot of my LGBTQ clients are just so much more open just about what they're looking for, like what it is. I mean, I've got people that, I've had people that, are looking for like a playroom, so to speak. I've had people that were in polyamorous relationships that needed more space, and like, I had this, this group of guys, there was four of them, and they had very different type of arrangement they needed. And I think they would not have been comfortable having that conversation with someone else that didn't really take the time to not that it's not even about knowing the community, but taking the time to really understand and ask questions that are very important, but a lot of people will be afraid to ask. I'm not afraid to ask the questions, because if I don't ask you questions that are personal, then I can't help you find the right home, right? Because buying a home is so personal.
Yes, it
And so
is.
I'm going to help you. Let's get to know each other. And that's another thing that I really love about this is what other job or career, or whatever it is that do you take someone that is really a complete stranger, and with a course of about 45 days, you've had so many personal conversations with them, and you really know so much about them and they know so much about you within the scope of 45 days. Like, that is, to me, a beautiful thing. That, and some of my very best friends that I have now were clients at some point.
It's
It's
great.
really awesome. I love it. So I love working with people that, and a lot of times I end up, making lifelong friends with them.
That's amazing. It's a great answer. And I know you've had a great career. And, speaking about your community, because, you know, your community, like people may find online, for example, YouTube videos about Raleigh and Durham and Charlotte, for example.
Mhm.
But in your voice, okay, what is it that you love about your community that people may find, good also that they may love as well? Like, for example, what do you love about your community? What are your favorite parts of the city,
Sure.
the town, whether it's the arts, the dining, great coffee shops, wine bars? Maybe the job market is great, whether
Mhm.
it's the ease of commuting, the schools, place of worship. Let's hear it from you.
Sure. So, and here's so the thing is like from North Carolina. So Raleigh Durham is one basic hub, right? One little area. Charlotte's a couple hours away. I have a team there as well, and I go work back and forth between two. But the two places are very open and accepting, very like blue when you look at a voting map, which is nice. But they're very different. So if you look at Charlotte, Charlotte is more kind of that big city feel. In fact, population within the city is even higher than it is like in Atlanta.
Hmm.
So Charlotte is a big city. It is a huge banking hub, like your Wells Fargo, Bank of America. You've got a lot of banking there. So it's a lot of that like banking kind of mentality, financial hub. People will show up more in suits and they go to work, and it's very clean. You've got your uptown, which is interesting. So Charlotte is not downtown, which is what you're used to saying. So if you ever do your research and you're looking at Charlotte and you want to live downtown, you're never going to live downtown Charlotte. You're going to live in uptown Charlotte. So check that out. And that's where, there's a lot of like good bars and restaurants, a lot of places you can go after work during lunch. So, I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
It's, but that's kind of how it's situated in Charlotte, the Queen City, they call it. Now, Raleigh is the capital of North Carolina. Um, and it has NC State University, but then you've got Duke in Durham, you've got UNC Chapel Hill, like the Tar Heels, Raleigh Durham Chapel Hill. That's like the Triangle area. But so you've got a lot of education. But what's different about this area is the type of jobs, right? So we are the second to obviously Silicon Valley with tech jobs. We're
Hmm.
huge with regards to the tech job community. And so think about how that's a little different from like banking. So your folks, a lot of times that are in tech, they may work from home. They go to work a lot more casual. Like you've got your Epic Games and your Cisco and your SAS and these huge, companies, your IBM, I could go on and on. But we've also got like Merrick, GlaxoSmithKline. So we've got a lot of pharmaceutical jobs here. So those types of jobs tend to be a different kind of vibe. And so Raleigh, you'll see a lot more of like, your breweries, a lot more of an arts scene,
Hmm.
a lot of food trucks and that kind of stuff. So if your vibe is more like, more laid back, you're more tech job, you're more, the brewery, food truck, that kind of stuff. That's going to be like your Raleigh, your Durham, area. Your professional sports teams. You've got hockey here in Raleigh, your Hurricanes, but then you've got your Panthers. If you're football in Charlotte, and so we've got those professional teams. But I don't know, like they're both wonderful places, but it really depends on kind of what your vibe is. Um, I'll tell you, like, so we've got you know, there's a place downtown in Raleigh, like that some of my favorite pastas, and like I said, there's just some good. I mean, it's just all kinds of things you can do, and it's growing so quickly. And I know, like I still like to watch Hell's Kitchen, and I could never find somewhere that sold beef Wellington, but I would hear like Gordon Ramsay talk about it, and I was like, how do I get this thing? So we finally have a couple of places here that I can get beef Wellington,
Nice.
which is nice. So.
With a
Um,
glass of red wine, of course, right? A nice Cabernet.
Absolutely. Or if I'm doing steak, I don't know if you're a martini guy, but I love a dirty martini vodka with
Yeah.
blue cheese stuffed olives.
Okay.
And so
Well, that's
Sullivan's,
something to try.
absolutely. So when you come to Raleigh, I'm gonna take you to Sullivan's. They have an amazing steak, a great bar, good vibe, but their kettle, I like Kettle One martinis with those blue cheese stuffed olives are amazing. So we'll
Well,
go hang out
that's
there.
something to look forward to, and I appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, it just depends on the vibe. And if anybody's ever curious, I'm assuming you'll have my contact information. They're welcome to reach out, and I can really go into more details about, because the key is, right, like I said earlier, it's asking the right questions. Like if
Yeah.
I were helping someone relocate to North Carolina, which I've done hundreds of times, the questions are what is your vibe? Like, how do you spend your weekends? Like, how do you spend your evenings? How do you, I know, what do you like? Where do you work? Like, and if you're looking for new employment, what is it that you want to do? Like, what, that kind of stuff. So if someone reaches out, we can start having that conversation about what do you want your life to look like, your lifestyle. And then from there is really where we can start, narrowing down, different areas. Like if you are retiring and you want a gorgeous lake house and you want to just enjoy that life, then we're going to get you over in Charlotte and get you on Lake Norman. It's huge, but it's gorgeous. But if you want like a really cool, like hip art scene and yada yada, then maybe somewhere in Raleigh or at the Village, or Boylan Heights is a great little like residential, very liberal, very gay friendly area in the Raleigh area, and it's beautiful, scenic view of downtown, and you can walk to bars, restaurants. It's a great little spot. So there's lots of options. So I'd be happy to discuss it with anybody.
That's awesome. And, I truly love the way you say this because, your tagline, keeping it real, makes so much sense because, I think the average realtor, is saying, how many bedrooms are you looking for? How many bathrooms? Do you need a garage? How many cars do you have? So, these questions and, based on people's lifestyles and what they want, I think that's really about home, right? Because your
Right.
home is where you're, enjoying life. And, with all that said, so, I know your team, you service both Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte. So tell us, like in a nutshell, do you service all type of homes? Like, do you specialize in historic homes, like single family homes, bungalows? There's a lot of condos probably in Charlotte,
Mhm.
townhouses. Like, what's your thing? Or you do a little of everything, I
Well,
guess, right?
here's the thing. I help people, right? So I'm not the person that's going to be like, oh, I specialize in this thing, because I specialize in helping people. And I'm not going to steer you towards what I specialize in when it's not the right fit for you. But here's the deal. I basically can specialize in everything because I do sell a lot of real estate. So I have done a little bit of everything. I've done some commercial and all that other fun stuff. But I love working with people and finding out what's the right fit for them. And and I like to find out where's the right location. And then at that point, okay, what are some of those other key pieces you're looking for? Now, obviously, price point dictating if you want all these things where it'll get you to, but that's not for me. I could care less about what your budget is because once again, I just want to help people. In fact, one of my biggest pet peeves when I send a referral to someone, if their first question is ever, well, what's their price point? I'm going to hang up the phone, literally. So because that's not what the refer. It's not about how many dollars you're going to make. It's about helping whoever I'm sending you. But that being said, I feel as though getting to know people, like I said earlier, is the key to specializing in anything. So I specialize in people, I guess is the
Great.
answer to your question.
That's a great answer. And it was very genuine because, if you speak to so many people, someone's going to need a condo, someone's going to need a townhouse, someone's going to need a single family home, someone's going to need a lake home. So depending on their needs, your experience, you handle it all. And
Right, and
that's really
someone
the
may
best
think
answer.
that they want one thing just because of for whatever reason, but once we start talking, they may realize, because I've had people that say, "Oh, I have to have, a or a single story home," right? But as I talk to them, really all they really care about is making sure that it lives that way, that their master is downstairs and all that other stuff, right? And so just making sure I ask the right questions, or I have to have a fenced in yard. Well, I get that, but guess what? I'm not going to set up a search that dictates that it has to be fenced in, because we can always add a fence. If the right house is there, you can always add a fence in. Or, and I love my realtor peers, a lot of folks do not actually put all the check marks in the MLS. So there's so many houses, if I were looking for, oh, hardwood floors or a fenced in yard, that it wouldn't even show up on a search because they haven't actually filled that in the MLS. So um, the reality is just taking the time, asking the right questions, and helping people realize that, oh, this, you say you want this, but now that we're talking, you actually can open up way more of things that would hit your needs, because you may say, I want a single family home, but but you want this and this. However, this townhouse is on an end, or I actually just sold a condo, but it's a cottage. It's not attached to anything. It's its own house, but it's considered a condo just because. And because a condo doesn't necessarily mean it lives like an apartment. A condo means that you own everything inside the walls.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
Yes. Great, great.
interesting.
So, and this is important, this next question, okay, because we are an LGBTQ real estate podcast. So tell us, some people may be thinking, for example, North Carolina, it sounds, like it's going to be a conservative place, whether they're
Parts are.
thinking Bible Belt or, whatever it is. But, so many misconceptions, because I know North Carolina is very progressive also, as
Mhm.
you do. But for someone that's, maybe living in California now, maybe has a job relocation to the Raleigh Durham area, what should LGBTQ individuals and families who are considering moving to your area know about the community and its welcoming to LGBTQ people and families?
It is very welcoming, to the point where there are like gay bars, so to speak. But what you'll notice is when you go out in downtown Raleigh or Durham, it's not about people go to the gay bar. They just go out. And it doesn't matter where you go. You go downtown, you're hanging out, you're there with your husband or your girlfriend or your wife, or, both, whatever it is that you're doing. Um, but you go in and you can go to Architect, or you can, or you can go to Landmark, which aren't gay bars, but it doesn't matter. You can go, right? It is very welcoming. You can go here and feel safe. You can go out and, meet anywhere, meet other LGBTQ people. We have very active like meetup groups, which is a big thing that I tell folks to do. Like, hey, join a meetup group. So actually, when I have people that move in from out of state and relocate, another thing I start asking them too is like, I also help them develop like their friend group, because they don't know anybody here. And by once again getting to know them, chances are I already know a subset of other LGBTQ or open people that share a lot of those same interests, and I like to help steer people that way. So because it's not just about moving here and buying a house, it's moving here and starting your life. So
Yes.
to me, that's more important, and which is why I ask those questions like, what do you want? What does your life look like to you? Let's help you transition to realize that lifestyle that you're moving here for. And so North Carolina is very welcoming. To your point, though, there are places in rural that you go and it's like, I don't know if you ever saw Deliverance, but it's like, sure, boy, you sure got a pretty mouth. Like, I mean, it will get like there are some country places, right? But if you're in, the greater Raleigh area, Charlotte, Asheville, Wilmington, Greensboro, like any really populated area, it's good.
Yes, and I think the other side of the coin you'll find in any state anyway. So it wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily be North Carolina
100%.
in this case. Well, that's great to hear. And you've also raised three children. So when it comes to families, you've seen that side of the world also.
I have, absolutely. Great school systems. But everything's what you make it, right? Like, raising kids, if you've raised kids, like there's those kids that are parents that just drop their kids off and have nothing to do with them. I mean, I would show up for school or do a field trip, you know, you know, because family's important. In my job, that's what I tell people, your job as a parent is not to raise your children to be perfect, but it's to minimize the amount of therapy they're going to need. Because I don't care who your parents are, they screwed you up somehow in some way.
It's
So
going to
the
happen.
key,
Yes.
yes, the key is like getting your kids to be as well adjusted as possible. So I tell my kids, like, look, I'll pay for, if you ever need therapy, I'll pay for that, and then my job is to get you out of the house so that you can be a self-functioning adult in this world to make it just a little bit better.
That's great.
So, but you can do that here. Like I would go to, like I said, field trips. I would go to the school, the PTA. In fact, I serve on the board of directors for a charter school. As
Very
a
nice.
open gay man, I'm serving on a school board. I am, going and chaperoning field trips with my kids, who my two boys are biracial, with two dads. I mean, it's been fun, and there hasn't been the feedback, the picking on, or things that you would really think that could happen if it were like really intolerant. Um, but here it's not been an issue for us. So, and I'm very,
Great.
very open about my life.
That's great. And this podcast is so important in that sense because people are hearing it directly from you that's experienced it. So someone that may be moving from like I said, California, or whether it's New York or wherever it may be, wherever people are moving for the jobs that are so plentiful in your area,
Mm-hmm.
first thing they think is, as a same-sex couple or family, is this going to be good for me?
Mm-hmm.
So this is all very, very important. Okay, so we made it through most of the podcast. We're at our last question. When you're not helping people buy and sell homes, what do you like to do?
Wow. So one of my like things that make me happy, I like now that it's fall, I love a bonfire, and then
Yeah.
like sit by a bonfire and sip on a good bourbon, like that peacefulness from that, and then listen to some like good music. Springtime, summertime, I have an old Camaro convertible that I love. It's like my,
Oh, wow.
tapping into like my high school years.
Yeah,
Um, but I love a good playlist with the top down, and I would just sing it to the top of my lungs. I love to cook.
yeah.
Um, I am definitely like, it's like going to somebody's grandmama's house when you eat here. Like I'm cooking something, soup, stews, chicken and dumplings, like it's fried chicken, all the good stuff. But you show up, you're going home with like a Tupperware full of food because I feed you. I love that. Travel is huge to me. I love other people's cultures and different types of food and bringing it back and trying it out. I've started using a lot more of like curries and Indian spices and infusing that with a lot of traditional Southern dishes, which have turned out really, really cool.
Wow.
So just playing with that. So yeah, cooking, road trips, travel, board
Awesome.
games are fun. Like basically I like to just enjoy life.
Yeah. Well, I know you do, and that's why we wanted to invite you to the podcast. And I know anyone that's looking to buy or sell a home would enjoy so much, not only the success that you help them buy or sell a home, but working with you and getting to know you. And like you said, many of your best friends you've worked with help them buy and sell homes. So perhaps you meet a new friend from this episode.
I'm all about meeting cool people.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that wraps it up. Thanks so much for sharing this, Stephen. And
Anytime.
truly, I enjoyed this time, and I look forward to seeing you again.
All right, Jeff. I appreciate
Okay,
you.
great. We'll see you on YouTube.
All right, buddy.
Okay, thanks. Bye bye.